Welcome to part two. So, other applications in quantum mechanics regarding practical applications that may reach industry certification include exploiting the wave particle duality of electrons through quantum mathematical applications, such as the disciplines of quantum physics, quantum biology, quantum chemistry, and quantum computing. So we have a very feasible upcoming or emerging technology known as matter management within the quantum mechanics models, and they include programmable matter, self-replicating technology, electronic medicine, wireless memory recall, that's magnetoencephalograms, magnetobiology, which would be everything from tracking the cells and molecules, DNA, our cell factories that produce new cells to replace old cells, known as meiosis. So there's also a magnetic spin rate tied to the electromagnetic and the biomagneto-electric signals between the predication of collapsing electrons from waves into particles. This has a lot more to do with the biophotons and the signals that stem cells receive and then manifest into the replacement cell, whatever it might be. Again, it is a data driven system, and this could also fall under bioinformatics. Then we have gene editing, and that is already on the planning side, a certified technology known as CRISPR, CRISP-R. And we have biological regeneration, which is coming slowly out of the classical physics side and moving more into the quantum physics side, the quantum mechanics side. We have biological cloning, of course, and the old method was purely biochemical, and then the function is actually biophysics, but there's also data and informatics based biological cloning. Next, we have transportation. Of course, this concept application was covered in part one. We have superposition. We also could have simultaneous existence, at least the data cognition on multiple timelines. This is more pertinent to quantum computing. And then virtual travel, which would take the concept of the electrical signals in the brain are what is actually reaching a ground state to what we perceive as physical reality. But if a certain location in both time and space could be accessed informationally, it could then be broadcast directly wirelessly to the neural cortex of the brain, and an individual could actually go someplace without physically leaving, just like people will tell you many of their dreams are as real as physical reality, including having touch, taste, smell, and could swear that it was real until they woke up. So there is a high level of certainty that the dream state is actually perhaps a consciousness migration, temporary consciousness migration onto different time, space, mediums, and or ones that are created internally through other subconscious aspects of the brain, which runs 95% of the programming of an individual, whereas the conscious mind only computes no more than 5% of what an individual has their program predispositions towards. So virtual travel may also be suitable for maybe perhaps going to conferences as if you're there but you're not. And so these would technically classify as transportation, because even if you watched a video lecture, and what's the difference between going to a classroom, driving there, going up the stairs, doing all the effort to show up, and then you're there only to see, hear, and maybe touch and smell and maybe taste what's going on in the lecture, but more likely you're seeing and hearing. And aside from that, it's for a group audience. So why not just make a video and use the internet's existing quantum communication system and then watch the video anytime you want, anywhere, including live video. So we kind of have the electronic version of virtual travel, and we more or less have the electronic version of simultaneous existence. But why not have the wave particle version, to where the experience is actually just as real as experiencing it right now in your physical reality? So that would technically be transportation, other than actually moving a physical item. So superposition could accomplish that if the redefined C merger between Newtonian and quantum physics was reached technologically. And then lastly, we have second to lastly, actually, we have the media, which would be holographic projection. And depending on the wattage transfer or the scalar, it may not even be a vector system. It might be like text messaging, but based on, we'll say, the overall power, those holograms could be as real as somebody in your room, or somebody, like you go to a lecture hall and the professor, which has already been done. It's actually Bluebeam applications have already been, it's not really Bluebeam, people have read that somewhere, but it is a application of holographic projection, quantum holographic projection. And a very gentle version of a hologram was broadcasted into an auditorium, and it was hidden from the public, and people believed that was a person. However, they started walking through the audience, and they were like, whoa, it's a three-dimensional hologram. And then that can behave much like the text messaging system, except you could send a copy email or a text to 1,000 people, and that data, that print, shows up in a controlled medium like a computer screen and a hard drive. But if the signals and the information transfer was high enough, it could actually visually manifest and articulate the data in a reflective state, allowing the speaker or the lecturer or the person to just be as real looking as they were there. Now, the theory is if you increase the amount of power and information, you then can have a solid, you could actually have materialization of the hologram. Now, what it can do, what it could actually carry, that's up to more development, but it definitely at least would be a media application. And then lastly, we have the defense, which we already have directed energy weapons. There's even Lockheed Martin directed energy weapons research, and so that's all ready there, but it could be improved upon for perhaps mutual assured destruction, so that nobody can go to war. And this would probably fall under matter dematerialization signals. So if we can delete, we can't destroy or create information, matter, or energy, but if we can delete information on a computer, which a lot of it grounds down into heat when this occurs, but the information is really not lost. It may never be, it would not be on your computer anymore. Even if you did the undelete and you formatted the hard drive, you could never get it back again, but it's out there somewhere. It went somewhere. And in the black hole physics, you literally could have a memory or an energy field, or you could have a the destruction of data on one end, and the gravity is so intense in the black hole that even light behaves like a fluid under a vacuum. It would be quote unquote sucked into the black hole. So what does information do in such a high gravitational state? So we're having an extreme curvature of time space, if that is gravity, and time space curvature is gravity. So that is a logical inference, or it is a theoretical conclusion, that the electron waves, information, and energy do materialize into electron particles or physical reality. So a thought form or a non-physical piece of intelligence or data could manifest into a physicality in such a high gravitational field. So if we said, okay, no more war and nobody can fight anymore, and of course we have nukes and we have other technologies, but if physical item can be dematerialized mechanically, or data can be deleted, chemical units such as molecules and atoms are also data. So the question is, could the anti-data be propagated through a signal to completely dematerialize the structure to its elements, not necessarily into antimatter, but the feasibility of transferring an anti-information opposite to the data, reflecting the chemical congruence and structures, molecules, and atoms of the target, is highly feasible. So these would be some quantum mechanics practical applications. Stay tuned for part 3, and in that part, the information to be covered would be the basic fundamentals between classical and quantum physics, and then the last section will be the reference page of researchers to study, their names, their titles, their locations, their work. So please stay tuned for part 3.